Yeah. What's
going on, everyone? It's King Tuts Pro. Welcome back to another Final Cut Pro 10 tutorial. Thank you so much for stopping by to watch another video. Yeah, so I'm going to show you 5 different effects that you guys can do in Final Cut Pro 10 to spice up your videos, and no plugins are required, which is amazing. Now, if you guys don't know, today is actually the 10-year anniversary for this YouTube channel, which is absolutely mind-boggling. So if you guys could leave a like and just comment down below. Alright, so what you want to do first is have your video in that timeline. I've already done that. We're going to go into the effects. We're going to go into masks. And what we're going to do is we're going to hold Option and drag upwards to make a copy. We want to place the playhead to where we want the effect to begin. We're going to make a selection around his mouth. So once you're at this point, what you want to do is go into the draw mask, go into control points, add a keyframe there, go into the transforms and add a keyframe next to position. Then what you want to do is just go frame by frame. So go 1 frame to the right and just move the actual draw mask. And what we're doing is we're pretty much moving the draw mask as the frame is changing, because if you don't move the mask, it's going to select another part of the video, which you do not want to happen. So I'm just pressing right on the arrow keys, making sure I'm within the selection here of his mouth. So once you've come to the end, it's going to stop like this, and that's totally fine. So if we go back and we skim through, you're going to see everything that we've done so far, and you can go back and adjust this. So right here we made an error, so we're just going to go back and make sure that that is exactly where it needs to be. We're going to go into the compositing, so transform, and we're going to go into scale, and we're going to scale this up quite a bit to about 130 just for fun. Now we're going to go into, we just click off of this so you can see the edges. They're very harsh, so we're going to go into the feather. You can either drag this to the left, drag it to the right. So once you do that, it's going to look like this, and then you can go back and adjust the scale. And once you're at this point, if you skim through, you're going to notice that his mouth is not where it needs to be. What you want to do is go into transform, and we're going to add a keyframe. Then we're going to go and just go frame by frame, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but I would suggest just moving it back to where his mouth should be, like right there, like right here. That's not where it should be. It should be a little bit further up. Perfect. So now if I go back and click done and I push play, you have your big mouth effect, and it looks just like that. Super quick, it's nice and simple. We're gonna move on to the next effect. Alright, so the next effect is going to be the warping edges effect, and it's really simple to do. Again, no plugins are required. We're just using what we have with Final Cut Pro 10, okay? What we're gonna do is we're gonna hold Option and drag upwards again, just like we did with the first effect. We're gonna go into the effects here. We're gonna go into the shape mask. So we're gonna drag that onto there. Then we're going to have this here, which looks like this. We can then go into the settings and change the radius. So what we're first going to do is change the curvature and make this nice and round. We're going to go into the radius here and adjust this and adjust the featherness. So it's about here. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to go towards the beginning. We're going to go into transform, or as you see, control points. So before we do that, we're going to go into transform. We're going to go onto position, add a keyframe. And we're going to skim through, and we're going to make sure that his body is within the inner radius here, because if it's outside, it will show on the feather in the effect, in the final effect. And you'll see what I mean. So we just want to make sure that it's really within that there. And here looks pretty good. Might want to adjust this there. So you can see that we've added a quick little tracking to his body. Hide the transforms. Go into the bottom clip, which is this one. We're going to go into effects. We're going to go into the distortion. We're going to go down, and we're going to select underwater, drag that onto the clip. And now you're going to notice the background looks really weird. Of course, we're going to change that. So we're going to go into the size. We're going to move that all the way. Well, we're going to adjust that later, but we're going to change the speed, and this is where we want it to be around 5. We want that to be relatively slow. We can do 7 as well. I think 7 look pretty cool. Refraction is how much of it is actually being warped, I suppose. So nothing's really happening here. But as soon as we start increasing the refraction, you're going to notice it's starting to get a little bit wavy. And that's pretty cool. So we can adjust the mix here, which is the opacity pretty much. So the less size there is, the more it's going to look really trippy. If you like that effect, you can definitely do that. What we're going to do is actually increase this quite a bit, actually. So around 3. And you're going to notice there's some artifacts on the edges. And you can easily fix that. You can either select the bottom clip and increase its scale, just like that, and that gets rid of it. So we go back and push play. we now have that warping kind of weird edges. And something like that can really spice up your video. Again, if you guys are liking the video so far, be sure to leave a like. Let's move on to the third effect. This one's gonna be really cool. Again, no plugins are required. The only thing you do need though is this image here, which is just a Kodak, like a slide. So all you gotta do is just go on Google and just look up 35mm slide Kodak or vintage Kodak slide, and just make sure that the actual picture slide or frame has a black center. So this piece is black, and then we'll add a keyer on that. That way you don't have to use Photoshop or any other photo editing application to actually make that a PNG, which is kind of cool. So what you want to do is find a part where you want to transition. So this is going to be the main video that we are going to use in the picture frame, and then this is going to be the next frame or scene that we want to transition over to. And then you're going to have to use another video beneath this one here to use as a background. In this case, I'm just going to use this one, and I'm going to go through and just skim through this here really quickly. So now we're going to use this as our background clip. As you can see here, we're going to drag that below these two videos. The first one is going to be the one that you're going to use as the picture frame transition, and then the next one is going to be your next scene over. So once you're at this point, what you want to do is move the playhead towards the beginning. We're going to go into the project window and find our Kodak. So we're going to drag this above our media in the timeline. We're going to go into the 3mm slide. We're going to go into the effects. We're going to go into keying and go to keyer and drag that on top of that. Go to sample color, select the black. Go to the fill holes and drag that all the way to the right. This just allows us to fill in those areas where it's kind of a bit transparent. Now, once we are here, what we're going to do is select the clip with the picture frame, which is this one. We're going to go down and we're going to go into transform. We're going to go into scale, and we're going to scale this up a little bit. Not too much, but just a little bit. Then we're going to go into rotation. We're going to rotate this a little bit to maybe something like this, about 8 degrees. Then increase the scale. And might want to adjust this a little bit, something like that. You just don't want the edges or the corners to peek out. So adjust this accordingly to whatever size you think looks best. I think that looks pretty good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go into this shot here. So adjust the picture frame to the first clip here that we're going to transition onto this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this clip here, right? And we're going to go into scale, and we're going to scale this down, as you can see. So we're going to scale this up just so it fills up the frame, or this frame here. Then we're going to go into rotation, adjust the rotation a little bit to the same rotation as this one. So it's going to be about 8 degrees. And you can double check by clicking on the top clip. So it's 6.7. So we're going to go back here. And this just makes it so that the perspective is correct. What we're going to do now is go back and adjust the scale further. So you just want it to be just enough to fill those edges there. So once you're at this point, all you really have to do is select both of these two clips, create a compounds clip. I'm going to name this Kodak overlay. Then what you're going to do is move the playhead to the beginning, go to transform, go to scale. We're going to add a keyframe, and we're going to go, I mean, you can time this however you want. I'm just going to push play, and right there is where I want it to zoom in. So I'm going to go to scale. I'm going to go to, I want to fill it all the way actually until we don't see those edges on that Kodak frame here. So we're going to keep scaling this up, as you can see. So we're going to go and push play. It's going to look just like that. Super cool. Alright guys, so the fourth effect is going to be the bouncing frame transition. Now this one is honestly one of my favorite ones, just because I think it looks super cool and really dynamic. So what you guys saw in that video is what you're going to get in this one. Again, no plugins. So if I push play, this is my version that I created. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see a little bit better. If I push play, it's just like this. And again, no plugins are required. It's super cool, very simple, and it's relatively easy to do. So I'm going to show you how to do it. Let's just jump right into it. So what you want to do is drag the video that you want to transition to above the video to the left. And I'm thinking maybe, I don't know, I'm thinking you want something to look like this. So maybe even more, to be honest. So you want to be, I would say maybe 30 frames just so it looks nice and smooth. You can do less than that. Maybe like this would look just fine as well. It's going to be a quick transition too, so you don't need that many frames. So once you have this above your media, what you want to do is first things first, go into transform, increase the scale to about 105%, just a little bit. That way we can create this shake effect in the end. You don't want to do that in the end because that will mess up everything else. So once you are at this point, what we want to do is move the playhead at the beginning, and we're actually going to add a keyframe next to the position, so there, and then go 8 frames to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we're going to go into the x-axis, which controls left and right, and we're going to move it all the way to the right. So it looks something like this. So now if we push play, it's going to look like this. And I found that 8 frames looks relatively good if you're working with a 30 frame video. Now you want to wait, I would say maybe 4 frames. So right there, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what you're going to do is just type back into X and type 0. So now if I go back and push play, that's going to look like this. If you think it's too fast, no problem. Just right click on your video, go to show video animation, and adjust these points accordingly. So I'm going to do something like this. And maybe like that. I might want to extend this out a little bit longer, so it's gonna play through. So in between the last 2 frames, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, about 4 frames. So once you're at this point, we're just gonna leave the end there, and we're gonna cut this piece here. So use the blade tool to trim that. Now that we have this, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a graduated mask. So we're gonna go into the effects, we're gonna go into masks, and we're gonna go into graduated mask and drag that on top of that video. Then you're gonna have 2 points here. You're gonna have the left one here, which controls the target, and then this one will control the centerpiece. So what I wanna do is just drag these so that it snaps into the yellow line, which is the middle line here. And I'm gonna click and drag this one so it's in the middle about here. That's about, I don't know, 1/3 of that video's frame. And then this piece here is the target. So that's kind of the feather, if in other words. So we're gonna drag this closer here so that we don't see this harsh edge. We're just gonna get rid of that with this graduated mask. So we're gonna drag it around here. So once you are there, what we can do is if we push play, it's gonna look like this, and it happens super fast. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go into this here, and we're gonna just type in 0. We're gonna create a keyframe, so add 1 keyframe there, go 1 frame over, and then we're gonna increase this all the way to 100. Now we're also going to create another effect, so just bear with me. So if I push play, it's going to look like this. So once it comes back into its frame here in full frame size, so if I go 1 frame to the right, this is where it goes back into the original clip. We're just going to go back to 0. So now it's going to look like this. Perfect. So once you're there, now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the effects, go to blur, go to directional blur, and drag that onto that clip there. We can skim through the video here to about here maybe, or maybe there. And now what we're gonna do is we're also gonna add another, a couple of more keyframes for the directional effect, where we actually want this to start at 0. So we're gonna drag the amount to 0. So we're gonna have to add a keyframe there, go 1 frame to the right, and then we can drag this outwards like that. And then at this point, we can increase it as it goes, right? It's going faster. Perfect. So once it's there, what we're going to do is add another keyframe under angle, and we're going to do the opposite. We're just going to drag this to the other side. So now it's going to look like this. And once it snaps back here, we're just going to bring the amount all the way down to 0 now. So it's going to look like this. Super simple, and it looks super smooth. And I can go back to fit. And again, you can always go back and adjust the speed. So just right click, show video animation. And these points, we're going to move that to the right a little bit. And we're also going to move these points over, right? We want to match those up as well. So if I push play, it's going to look just like that. Once you're happy with the effects, we're going to go frame by frame to where it stops, which is here. We're going to transform under position. We're just going to adjust the X and Y values. So we're going to move this like to the right a little bit and maybe down. So it's going to look like this. Right, and so it goes there, and then here we're gonna move this like up, maybe to the left, 1 frame over, drag this to the right again, and we might want to do this, drag it down, 1 frame again, move it up a little bit, and then to the left. So now if I push play, it's gonna create that really quick shake effect, and it looks super cool, and no plugins are required, so you can create really cool transitions with these.
I'm all in.
Alright guys, so this is going to be the last and final effect slash transition, and this one is going to be called the double slide transition, and it's very similar to the other one that I just showed you, and it borrows kind of the same technique, except this one we're going to be doing a double kind of transition, which is kind of cool. So this is the original video that I just showed you, and it's relatively simple. Of course, you can add your own color grading to this. I'm not going to do that in this video. I just want to show you the main transition, which is this part here, and it's very similar. No plugins are required, which is the best part about this transition slash effect. Alright, so what you want to have is your main clip. So we have the first one here, which is going to transition into this one here. And so it just looks like this. If I play it through, it's about 3 seconds each. And this is just another video here. I'm going to actually delete it so you guys don't get confused. So we have the first video and then the second video right here. So what you want to do is import the JPEG, which is this one here. It's the Kodachrome transparency slide by Kodak. I'll leave it linked down in the description so you guys can check it out. So anyway, so what you want to do is drag it into the timeline, and we're going to be focusing on creating the actual kind of movement of this technique. So we're going to go into the effects, we're going to go into masks, go to keying and add the keyer onto that clip. We're going to click on the sample color, we're going to sample the black, we're going to increase the fill holes to the maximum at 10 so we can see through this frame here, or slide I suppose. We're then going to hide the keyer, and then what we're going to do is move the playhead towards the beginning. Ignore the video for now, we're just going to be focusing on the actual slide image. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the transform here, and we're going to increase the scale. So we're going to scale this up a little bit, and we're going to change the position. So we want the bottom and the top kind of width to be roughly the same. So once you're there, what you're going to do is make sure your playhead's at the beginning, increase this all the way up so you don't see any of the edges at all. Then you're going to add the keyframe, go 7 frames forward. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8, give or take. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drag the scale all the way down to, I don't know, maybe here. Something like that looks good. So you can go back and make sure that it looks just like this. So push play, comes in just like that. And ignore the speed for now. We can easily adjust that later. So we're gonna go like this, and it stops right about here. So what we're gonna do from this point is go 1 frame over. We're gonna wanna go 1 frame again. So it's gonna end like this, go 1 frame again, and then add your keyframe again. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go about 7 frames again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then what we're going to do is we're going to drag the y-axis all the way up. So we're going to drag this all the way up until it's out of the frame. Okay, and we can go to 50%. If I click this, you can see what's happening here. So if I go back and I push play, it's going to look just like this. Now we need to make another copy, and it's very simple to do that. Before we do that though, I'm going to click off of this, click done. And I'm going to click back on the slide. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the effects, go to masks, go to graduated mask, and then we're going to add that to the slide clip. What we're going to do is we're going to go around halfway, and you're going to see 2 points. Just like the other effects or transition that we did, we're just going to move this bottom half here and just kind of move the or skim through the video until you see the bottom half of this image. We're going to drag the center point, which is this piece, around here, and then we're going to drag this piece up. So you want to create a nice soft feather, so we're going to create here. Perfect. So once you're done with that, all you got to do now is hold Option and drag upwards, and we're going to drag this one, I guess, below it. And what you're going to do is we're going to reset. You're going to first delete the graduated mask, and then we're going to reset the position. Okay, so it's going to look like this now. So it's going to look a little bit confusing. So this is the top one, and this is the bottom clip here, okay? So the bottom one, we haven't applied any actual slide effect yet. So what we're going to do is re-enable the top clip, which is this slide here, and we're going to go about halfway until we can see that kind of feathering effect towards the bottom. We're now going to select the bottom slide, okay? And we're going to go into transform, go to the y-axis, and just drag this down. Just drag it all the way down until we can find a spot where, if you see the thickness right here, it's gonna pop out a little bit. So just drag that until it's just right below it. You don't want it to be above, and you kind of also want to hide the name a little bit. You can go into Photoshop and get rid of this if you wanted to, but we're just sticking to Final Cut. So we're gonna go about here. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add a keyframe to that position, and we're going to now create the frames for the beginning. So go one frame to the left, drag the y-axis down again into the same exact spot. There you go. One frame to the left, and just keep doing that, dragging it to the left so you don't see it, okay? We're going to keep doing that because we didn't add any keyframes for that. Perfect. So now if we skim through, pressing the right arrow keys, goes frame by frame, and right here is where we created our last frame. So at this point, just press right on the arrow key and then drag it again, the y-axis up about, move it around here, I guess. So that looks perfect. So again, right arrow on the keyboard, drag up again, and then now you can technically move it to where you want it to look like, around here. Perfect. So once it's at this point, it's going to stop here, and we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to do right on the arrow key. We're going to then, actually before we do that, add a keyframe next to scale where it stops, and then right on the arrow key. So it's going to go like that, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to go one frame to the left actually, and then there what we're going to do is go into scale, and we're just going to scale this all the way up until we don't see that edge. Now we just pretty much created our effect. So if I push play, it looks just like that, and it's perfect. Now that you have that, we can just trim these edges, delete those, so we can just highlight them and delete them. And now what we're going to do is select the slide and just drag it to wherever you want the transition to appear. So I'm going to just drag this in between these two clips. In this case, we can just group these. So we're going to create a group, and we're going to name this picture transition. Now that we've done that, we're going to go, and so once it's out right there, what we're going to do is drag that here. So there, we're going to move that over one frame. Perfect. So right there is where we want to actually leave it. Okay, that looks pretty good. So we're going to select the first clip, and we're going to go about here. Then we're going to go into transform, add a keyframe in the position, press right on the arrow key, move the y-axis up, press enter, and then press right on the arrow key again, and just keep moving it up, again, up. And you just want to make sure that this is not showing on the bottom clip. So I'm going to go right on the arrow key. We might have to move this up even more. Kind of want to be a little bit more, might want to have to adjust those. Go again, and we're going to drag this all the way up. Perfect. So once you're there, we're going to press left on the arrow key, and you're going to see that it's still in this frame. So we're going to have to drag this all the way up so it's out of the frame. So if I push play, looks like this. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is work with the bottom clip. So we're going to click done, select the second clip, which is the one that's going to appear, which is this one. And once we're there, we're going to go, once it starts to appear, we're going to add a keyframe under position, right on the arrow key. So at this point, we're going to move the y-axis down because we want this to be right at the top of that edge here. So about here. Then again, press enter or click off of it somewhere. Then press right on the arrow key, and then move this up again, and then drag it up again. And then here at this point, we can just type in 0. So it's going to look like this. Perfect. So now if I push play, it looks just like that. And then you're finished. It's really that simple, and it's that easy to do. Push play, and you have your very easy Kodak kind of double slide transition. So if you guys found any of these effects / transitions useful, please leave a like, subscribe, turn on the bell notification, and yeah, I hope you guys liked the 10-year kind of special with the UK/US drill top 5 effects and transitions. I'll catch you on my next video. Peace out.